And even Kamala Harris kind of had a nod to that with her
Yeah, that's very
plan.
true. I should mention that because Kamala came out with her sort of opportunity plan and the opportunity agenda for specifically black men, which is a little, a little something. She says she's going to be the president for all people, but came up with how do they call it? A fully forgivable loan. That's a new one. Like that, we're doing some mental gymnastics. I actually said on the air earlier today, I was like the non-forgivable loan, which was a complete screw up on my part because, intuitively you want to say it's a non-forgivable loan, but no. This one is fully forgivable, ladies and gentlemen, a fully forgivable loan that Kamala Harris would want to put in. So this was one of the sort of main tenets of her policy, basically a cash handout to any black man.
Yeah, the only
for
time I've heard of some people negotiating that with like Wall Street pay packages or something, right? Where it's sort of like some kind of tax tax
because they
avoidance
call it a
scenario.
loan.
I mean, maybe that was
If
the
anything, you want to
inspiration.
probably like legislate against that kind of stuff. Like, you're trying to use semantics and fancy words anyway for a handout or, in the case of Wall Street, it's basically part of your salary, I guess. Anyway, so in addition to that, Kamala Harris has come through with a plan to protect black men in the crypto market. And we can have a whole other conversation. I mean, it's just sort of funny because she's like, I'm going to give you 20K and I'm going to protect you in the crypto market because, be careful of the crypto markets. And, by the way, I'm going to totally legalize MJ. And I'm like, I'm trying to be careful because we're on YouTube and I don't know what words I can say or not say. So we're going to go with the abbreviation. Okay, guys. Anyway, or cannabis. I don't even know if I can say that. So I'm going to be very, very careful. But she's saying it. I thought it was legalized. I mean, every time I walk down the street in New York City, I'm like, God help me. It stinks. It's like I'm out in the forest. Anyway, I thought it was legal. Apparently it's not. It's not federally legal. So she's going to do some work on that. But what do you make of her trying to creep crypto into her economic opportunity plan for black men?
Yeah, I think it does point to a reality that actually I've looked at some data. So crypto ownership, like Bitcoin ownership, really does skew young. Like people who are, I think it's fair to say we're both Gen X generation, and and then there's the boomers. Like the boomers really don't own much. They're very distrustful of it and skeptical. And
Like my
I
parents aren't
understand
going
that.
near it.
Sorry.
My parents
Yeah.
aren't going near it.
Yeah. They think it's just a bunch of ones and zeros. How could it have value? And even our generation,
I had
we're
to convince
not.
them to get into gold. Anyway, whole other story. Keep going.
People, but the millennials and the younger groups, they're all in, and they so the ownership skews towards them. And actually, I've seen some data. It skews towards certain minority groups as well. Like it's kind of skews a little male. It skews a little bit towards minority groups. So there is something to what she's to
I didn't even
the
realize
policy
that
that she's trying to
actually. Like
address
I'm
it.
pretty colorblind on stuff, so like I didn't even realize that. But that's interesting.
Well, I was just
She
looking at
realized
like
it.
kind of these survey data or whatever.
But
But
here's the thing: what is she protecting them from? Like, let me be very clear. By the way, if you're looking at Bitcoin, like you don't put your savings in Bitcoin. This is like you get a little money on the side. You could go to Vegas or you could put it in Bitcoin. Okay, I mean, I do think it's an interesting place to be. I do actually believe in it. But I'm not putting all my assets in it. Like, you wouldn't do that with any asset class, by the way. But I say this just, because, for the kids out there watching, and for the older kids out there watching, you want to be careful. It's definitely more of a Wild West asset class. All that said, we know that. Like, and when you try and buy it in any of these ETFs, there's a big message that pops up on the screen saying, this is a crazy market. And beware, there's tons of volatility. I mean, hey, the volatility in some cases can be your friend. And I know you get a piece coming out on that from a tax purposes standpoint. You want to use volatility in very, very specific ways. But, we know that. So what is Kamala going to do? She's going to regulate it more? I mean, it's going mainstream. It's in the ETF community. You get BlackRock involved.
Yeah, it's unclear. And I was kind of going through the AI search engines to try to figure out if she had actually said anything concrete beyond that one statement about about protecting them from digital assets. I think it was just kind of throwing out a talking point that was sort of trying to present herself as being a pro crypto candidate, similar to how Trump did that, copying Trump again in his approach and his policies and his strategies. But then it was like also stated as a form of protection, because I think that's where a lot of the Democrats still are, where it's sort of like this consumer protection mindset. So maybe they're trying to have it both ways and just give vague.
Perhaps. Yeah. No, she's trying to, look, I care about you. I'm trying. I think, and Don, one of our loyal viewers on the Trish Regan show, and now Don's over here at 76 Research. We thank you for that. Don's not buying it. He likes his Swiss francs more than his crypto any day of the week. He likes his gold. I'm not saying it's either or. I think this is just this is a little bit of insurance, just in case. Coming from somebody who should have bought it when it was $10, guys, okay? Remember that. And then when it was 30,000. Anyway, it's gotten easier to do now, and you can buy it in ETFs at fractional ownership, et cetera. So they've made it more user friendly. I think back when it was $10, I was like, I got to get a hard wallet. What's a hard wallet? It was too intimidating from a technology standpoint for someone who could barely work a computer. So, oh well. But Don is also making the point on Kamala that he's concerned her, idea of giving out $20K to every black man is not constitutional. Don, I would think you're right on that. Rob, you're an investor, you're not a lawyer, but if you were to start doing this along with the whole student loan forgiveness thing, aren't we sort of getting into dangerous territory? Like if we want to think about sort of socialism, communism, and economic systems that we fundamentally don't believe in as Americans?
Yeah, well, look, say what you will about the communists. I don't recall them dividing up the proletariat into racial and identity groups and then divvying up the resources of society even more.
So she's taking it a step further.
Yeah, she's taking it like a step. It's like not only is she a communist, but she adds in this kind of woke, postmodern, critical race theory lens to communist reapportionment of the resources of society. To me, it's very dangerous and toxic. What's next? Are we going to have race and gender-based tax rates? Right? That's the logical conclusion.
But it's a form of, I guess this is, a forgivable loan is a fancy way of saying reparation.
Yeah. And I think it's you can't just give them the cash. There has to be a few of kind of obfuscation in order to make it not seem like what it actually is. And maybe that way it becomes potentially, they think they can squeak by with it and it's legal. Or maybe they just know it's illegal, like the student loans, and they're making a campaign.
They're just going to do it because you know what? She's really getting killed in the polls, right?